Hello everyone, Howard here. I'm back with another Oyster Perpetual video. Recently I did a review of the 41mm Oyster Perpetual, the 2025 new models of beige and the pistachio. But here's the 36mm, a little bit smaller. And as I mentioned in that video, the smaller size tend to have a little bit more color that maybe towards a little bit more towards female wearers, where the 41mm, some of the new colors, while they're kind of pastel, but they're a little bit more neutral, whether it's the beige or pistachio. I think either male or female is fine, but I think for the smaller, some of the 34, 36, like this color, the lavender, maybe a little bit more geared towards female wearers. 36mm, the model number is 126000, specifically submodel number 0013 for this lavender color. So as I mentioned in the 41mm case video, that I can never get the 41mm measurements from the 4 to 10 clock. But for this 36, it's actually true 36mm from 4 to 10 when I measure it. It's 11.5 thickness, a little bit thinner than the 41, which was 11.7. And I believe the lug width is 20. However, the top end of the link is only 19.3 millimeters wide, slightly, I think, narrower than the actual lug width. And the taper's down to 15.2. For the 41mm, the taper was down to 16, so this is even a little bit more narrower at the last end of the link. Weight-wise, 124 grams, I believe. It's a good weight for my smaller wrist, about 4.36 ounces. So, I've done some Oyster Perpetual videos quite a bit. What I like about it is, besides the bezel and the side is polished, side of the case, but everything else, the shoulder, the bracelets, they're all just non-polished nickel finish, especially the middle link of the Oyster Perpetual and also the Explorer models and the Submariner models. I personally am not a big fan of the polished link. It's just a little bit too much bling. Obviously easier to get scratches, all that. But if you go with a DJ, they date, and many of the sports model, GMT, or Daytona, etc., the middle link is always polished. The dial, man, so it's simple, and that's why I like the OP, right? A lot of folks, as I mentioned in my other video, always say, oh, this is the cheapest Rolex, it's entry level. I don't ever look at this way. Sure, Rolex I watch is in, platinum, Daytona, platinum, whatever, in the $100,000 range, but if you just need a three-hand, simple daily wear, and this is it. This is pretty, you don't need a date. 100-meter water resistance of this watch is more than enough for every day. Even go to the water. You don't need any other functions. This is the perfect, possibility, whether it's 36 or 40 or 41. You just look at the time, and it's extremely accurate. 30 to 30 caliber, 70-hour power reserve. That's more than sufficient. Plus minus 2 seconds a day. I mean, that's the Rolex's hallmark. Extremely accurate, right? That's it. I know a lot of folks own these OPs. Myself own a 36mm OP for my daily wear. And many other folks own very, very expensive watches, yet they still have a 36 OP, right? So don't think of it as just cheap Rolex. Depending on the function, this is a potentially a perfect daily wear for folks who want a little bit lower profile, a little bit smaller. Obviously, this color, beautiful color, number one. Number two, the lavender, the purple will definitely catch the eye a little bit more than a regular white or black. But I think that's kind of the trend, right? Rolex introduced these colorful dials a few years ago, and ever since then, it's been the rage from all different manufacturers, including Rolex itself, right? Try to come up with different colors every year, and this year, 2025, they've introduced a few different variety of colors. I think it's, again, in today's day and age, whatever color you wear, just let you like it, it's great. Nobody cares, and you shouldn't think about what other people care about the watch you wear. If you like this color, you like this size, perfect. So the indexes are all white gold surrounds. The fill is a Nova Cormorite. I think the fill in the minutes, not the minutes, the hours and minutes, yes, and the indexes. One other thing is, these black, I think it's the black dots at the end of the indexes. They're not just a painted, like the Minitrack. It's actually a 3D thing. It's a little bit harder to see from the lighting here. I'm gonna try to see if I can get, yeah, here, if you look at the 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you can kind of see it's not just a painted dot, it's actually a 5 o'clock right here. You can kind of see it's a 3D. And in the past, this color of these dots are different depending on the dot, depending on the dial color, and in the even older model, I think, instead of the dot at the end, there you go, you can see the 3D effect right here, these dots. Instead of a dot, it actually has the number 5, 10, 15, 20. But overall, it's, the OP design is just classic. Simple die Oyster, Rolex Oyster Perpetual, superlative chronometer, officially certified, Swiss made. The back, obviously, it's not exhibition. Most Rolex watches are not a simple close end. And the back, you got the beautiful bracelet, beautiful clasp with stamped rather than embossed. Stamped, rather than a 3D actual crown. The back end of the bracelet is also kind of nickel finish. I've personally, like I said, I've done 100 videos in the last 6 years. Again, thanks so much for all the support. Had the fortunate, was fortunate enough to have some nice watches to review, and also own some of the nice watches. But my daily wear is the 36 OP. It's perfectly for every day, and it's light. Like I said, if you have a smaller wrist like what I have, so I'm going to put that on right now. My wrist is 16.5 centimeters and 6.5 inches. It's on the smaller side of medium and small, you can even say, but not tiny, right? Today I'm indoor with some AC, so my wrist is not expanding like in the hot days. It's a great fit. Number one thing to remember when you watch a video on a watch, the watch is always going to look bigger on your wrist compared to how it actually look. Right now, I have here from the edge of the lug to the end of the wrist, probably 8 millimeters. On this side, at least 3 to 4. Tons of space. Now, but if you look at this angle, this seems to be a little bit closer, but reality is it's not. It's a great fit. I think for me personally, I'll pick this one over the 41, or technically it was more of a 40, just because it fits me a little bit better. And if I tighten up a little bit on the bracelet, look, easily it will close the end, almost towards the end. There's not much space left. Here's a shot from the arm. Great size for smaller wrists, folks. It's easy to fit under the cuff, especially now I live in the East Coast. Winter tend to have a little bit more sweater or warmer jacket outside of your watch. You don't want the watch to be super thick for day to day. 11.5 is great size, the thickness. Beautiful. And like I said, it's not just 36. It's also got the 100-meter water resistance. You got the crown here with basically a I think a twin lock, if I remember correctly. Water, 100 meter, 330 feet water resistance. It's more than enough for everyday wear. Simple, elegant, beautiful. The part that's not great is the secondary market price. Obviously, the retail price, 6,350, 6,350 US dollars, late 2025. I think for the watch is fine, but as you guys know, even though the market has, kind of came back to pre-COVID level, but new Rolex models, and especially the newer color dials, it's still extremely difficult to get. You can put your name on a waiting list, but probably never get the call. You got to be a huge spender to be considered for these new models, new colors. Secondary market is basically, I would say, double the retail for a new one or mint condition. The posted price is close to 13,000 USD. But the actual final sale price might be a little bit lower. Just keep that in consideration. At least also in the US, most secondhand gray dealers, when you buy it, if you're not in that state, if they mail it to you, usually can save the sales tax. But if you actually buy a watch from a local AD, most states in the US, except a few, you have to pay a sales tax ranging from 6.5% all the way to close to 11% sales tax. Just keep that in mind. All right, so again, this is the 2025 new dial color Rolex Oyster Perpetual 36 millimeter lavender dial, model number 126000-0013. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.